The fifth most common question is that why does Islam permit a Muslim man to have more than one wife? Earlier this misconception, it was at the top of the charts. But now it has come down to number 5. Jihad and terrorism has overtaken. The question is, why does Islam permit polygamy? Polygamy is divided into 2 types, polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny is where a man marries more than one wife, and polyandry is where a woman marries more than one husband. In Islam, limited polygyny is permitted, whereas polyandry, it is completely prohibited. In fact, Quran is the only religious book on the face of the earth which says that marry only one. There is no other religious book on the face of the earth which says that marry only one. Whether it be the Talmud, whether it be the Old Testament, whether it be the Ramayana, whether it be the Bible, Quran is the only religious book on the face of the earth which says that marry only one. And if you read Ramayana, the father of Sri Ram, King Dashrath, he had more than one wife. According to Mahabharata, Krishna, how many wives did he have? 4, 10, 100, 1,000, 16,108. If Krishna can have 16,108 wives, why can't we Muslim maximum 4? Even if you read the Christian scriptures, according to the Bible, a Christian can marry as many wives as he wishes. It was later on that the Christian church, they put a restriction and said that a Christian should marry only one wife. Even if you read the Jewish scriptures, the Talmud, the Old Testament, Abraham, he had 3 wives. Solomon had 700 wives. So even according to the Jewish scriptures, a Jew can marry as many wives as he wishes. It was later on that Rabbi Joshim bin Yehuda, he issued an edict against it and said that a Jew should marry only one wife. Even the Jewish community that lived among the Muslims, even they married more than one wife till as late as 1950. It was later on that the chief rabbi of Israel, he put a ban, he put a restriction and said that a Jew should marry only one wife. Whereas according to the scriptures, a Jew can marry as many wives as he wishes. Same thing in the Hindu scriptures. A Hindu can marry as many wives as he wishes. If you read the statistics of the status of women in Islam, published on page number 66 and 67, which showed that Muslims did 4.31% polygamous marriages, whereas the Hindus did 5.06%, 0.75% more than the Muslims. Even though it is illegal for a Hindu to have more than one wife, after it being illegal, the Hindus were more polygamous as compared to the Muslims. I don't know if it was legal how much the percentage would have reached to. But according to the Hindu scriptures, a Hindu can marry as many wives as he wishes. It was later on that the Indian government, the Indian Penal Code, in 1954, in the Special Marriage Act, they put a ban and said that a Hindu should marry only one wife. Whereas, according to the scriptures, a Hindu can marry as many wives as he wishes. 4, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, no upper limit. Let's see what the glorious Quran talks about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 3, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. Marry women of your choice in 2s, 3s or 4s, but if you fear that you cannot do justice, then marry only one. So only if you can do justice, you can marry more than one wife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 129. وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ فَلَا تَمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَةِ. And you will never be, and you cannot do justice between your wives, but do not turn away from them altogether. Many people think that it is compulsory in Islam to have more than one wife. Whereas it is mubah, it is optional in Islam to have more than one wife. But if you have more than one wife, and if you cannot do justice, then you are in a problem. So only if you can do justice, you can marry more than one wife. Let's analyze what are the logical and scientific reasons why Islam allows a man to have more than one wife. If we analyze, male and female are born in an equal proportion. But if you ask any medical doctor, he will tell you that the female sex, it is a stronger sex. It has got more immunity than the male sex. So, in the pediatric age itself, there are more deaths in males as compared to females. As life goes on, there are deaths due to drug addiction, due to alcoholism, due to wars that take place. In all these cases, there are more men who die as compared to the women. And the statistics tell us that the average lifespan of a woman is more than the average lifespan of a man. Today in the world, there are more females as compared to males, except in some third world countries like India, because female feticide and female infanticide is practiced. And there was a BBC report on the program assignment. The topic was, "Let Her Die." A British reporter by the name of Emily Beckenham states that every day in India, more than 3,000 fetuses are being aborted after they identify that they're females. And if you multiply this by 365, more than 1 million fetuses are being aborted every year after they identify that they're females. And according to Tabullah Government Hospital, out of 10 females born alive, 4 are put to death. And if this female infanticide stops in India and in the third world countries, in a couple of decades, the female population, it will outnumber the male population. Today in the world, there are more females as compared to males. In New York alone, there are 1 million females more than males. In USA alone, there are 7.8 million females more than males. In UK alone, there are 4 million females more than males. In Germany alone, there are 5 million females more than males. In Russia alone, there are 9 million females more than males. And God alone knows how many million females are more than males in the complete world. If I agree with the non-Muslim that every man should marry only one wife, and suppose if your sister, or suppose if my sister, happens to live in USA, and the market is saturated, every man has found a life partner. And suppose if your sister, or suppose if my sister, happens to be one of those 7.8 million females who have not found life partners, the only two options she has is marry a man who already has a wife, or to become public property. Someone might say, public property, such a harsh word. It's the most sophisticated word I can use. Having mistresses in America is very common. The American statistics tell us that an average American, he has 8 different sexual partners before he settles down with one. Some may have 10, some may have 20, but before an average American he gets married, he has 8 different sexual partners before he settles down with one. How many he has after he married, the statistics doesn't tell that. Having mistresses in America is very common. 10, 20, no problem. But having more than one wife does not go down their throat. You know, when a woman, she is a second wife, she has protection, she gets honor, she lives a peaceful life. Whereas when a woman, she's a mistress, she lives a life of disgrace, she has no protection. Therefore in Islam, a man is allowed to have more than one wife in order to protect the woman. And under normal circumstances, no woman would like to share a husband. But a good Muslimah who knows the situation of the world would not mind to share a husband in order to protect her sister from becoming public property. And if you ask any modest woman, what would she choose? To marry a man who already has a wife, or to become public property? Any modest woman, she would choose the first one. The sixth most common question is that if Islam allows a man to have more than one wife, why does Islam prohibit a woman from having more than one husband? As far as this is concerned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 24, وَالْمُحْسَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Do not marry a woman who already is married. The Quran says that you cannot marry a woman who already is married. Before I discuss the real reason, imagine there is a scarcity of finding husbands, and if a woman has more than one husband, this will increase the scarcity. This will multiply the problem. Let's analyze what are the logical and scientific reasons why Islam prohibits a woman from having more than one husband. If you analyze, when a man has more than one wife and the child who's born out of the wedlock, you can easily identify the mother as well as the father. Whereas when a woman has more than one husband and the child who's born out of the wedlock, you will be able to identify the mother, but you will not be able to identify the father. And today, the psychologists, they tell us that it is very important for the child identification of the parents, especially the father. And if you happen to admit your child in school, and if they ask you, what is your father's name, you may have to give two names. And today medical science tells us that man is more polygamous in nature as compared to the woman. And there are various changes that take place in a woman, menstrual cycle, that she cannot do the role of multiple wives simultaneously. Whereas a man can do the role of multiple husbands simultaneously. And if a woman has more than one husband, then there are high chances of venereal diseases being transmitted and will be retransmitted to the man. Whereas if a man has more than one wife, there are very less chances of these diseases being transmitted. So even scientifically, it is not a problem for a man to have more than one wife. But it is problematic for a woman to have more than one husband. The seventh misconception is that why does Islam subjugate the woman by keeping her behind the veil, by keeping her behind the hijab? Before I discuss the real reason, let's look at the status of women in the past civilizations. If you look at the history of the Babylonian civilization, women were ill-treated. And if a man committed murder, his wife was put to death. If you look at the history of the Greek civilization, women were an object of sex and pleasure. And they believed in an evil woman by the name of Pandora, who was the cause of all evil. If you look at the history of the Roman civilization, women were considered as an object of sex and pleasure. Prostitution and nudity was common. If you look at the history of the Egyptian civilization, women were considered as an instrument of the devil. If you look at the history of the Arab civilization, before the glorious Quran was revealed, when a female child was born, they used to bury her alive. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. After the revelation of the glorious Quran, this practice has been stopped in the Arab lands. But yet, it persists in many countries of the world. Islam gave rights to the woman. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a major benefactor in giving the rights to the woman. And many people talk about hijab for the woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first talks about hijab for the man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 30, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَن يَغْضُضُوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. Say to the believing man that he should lower his gaze and guard his modesty. Whenever any man looks at any woman, and if any blazing thought, if any unashamed thought comes to his mind, he should lower his gaze and guard his modesty. And once there was a man who was looking at a woman for a long time. I told him, brother, what you are doing, it is haram, it is prohibited. He told me that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the first glance is forgiven, the second glance is prohibited. I have not completed half my glance. What did the Prophet mean when he said that the first glance is forgiven, the second glance is prohibited? It does not mean that you can look at a woman for 10 minutes without blinking and say that I have not completed my glance. It means that if you look at a woman unintentionally, do not continue looking at her in order to feast on her beauty. The next verse, Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 31. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَلْيَضْرِبَنَّ بِخُمُورِهِنَّ عَلَى جَيُوبِهِنَّ. O Prophet, say to the believing woman that she should lower her gaze and guard her modesty and display not her beauty except what is ordinary of, and tell her to draw her veil over her bosoms and display not her beauty except in front of their husbands, their fathers, their sons. And there is a big list of mehram, of close relatives who she cannot marry. In Islam, there are basically 6 criteria for hijab that are mentioned in the glorious Quran and the authentic hadith. The first is the extent for the man and for the woman. For the man, it is from the navel to the knee. And for the woman, it is the complete body should be covered. The only parts that can be seen are the face and the hands up to the wrist. The remaining 5 criteria are same for the man as well as for the woman. Second is that the clothes they wear, it should be loose. It should not be tight-fitting. It should not reveal the figure. Third, it should not be translucent or transparent. Fourth, it should not be so glamorous that it attracts the opposite sex. Fifth, it should not be that of the opposite sex. And sixth is that it should not resemble that of the unbelievers. These are basically 6 criteria for hijab that are mentioned in the glorious Quran and in the authentic hadith. And this does not consist of the complete hijab. You have hijab of the eyes, hijab the way you walk, hijab the way you talk, hijab the way you behave, hijab of the heart, hijab of the thoughts. This consists of the complete hijab. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Ahzab, chapter number 33, verse number 56, that يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن. O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters that when they go abroad to put on their cloak, so that they shall be recognized and it will prevent them from being molested. I would like to ask you a question. That if there are twin sisters who are walking along the streets of Mumbai, along Pedder Road, and both of them are equally beautiful. One is dressed in the hijab, that is the complete body covered, and the other is dressed in the mini skirts or shorts. And if there's a ruffian, if there's a hooligan who's waiting for a catch, who's waiting to tease a girl, I am asking the question, which girl will he tease? Will he tease the girl in the Islamic hijab, or will he tease the girl in the mini skirts or shorts? Which girl will he tease? But natural, the girl in the mini skirts or shorts. You invite, so you'll receive. Islam has prescribed hijab for the woman so that it prevents her from being molested. And after that, if any man rapes any woman, capital penalty, death penalty. Someone might say, death penalty, such a barbaric law in this 21st century. Islam is a barbaric religion. Islam is a ruthless religion. And if you ask this to many non-Muslims, that God forbid, if someone rapes your mother, if someone rapes your sister, and if you are made the judge, and the rapist is brought in front of you, what punishment will you give him? And believe me, 100% will say that we will put him to death. Some will go to the extent, we will torture him to death. If someone rapes your mother, if someone rapes your sister, you want to put him to death, you want to torture him to death. If someone rapes someone else's mother, someone else's sister, you say death penalty, such a barbaric law. Why these double standards? USA has one of the most advanced countries of the world. It has the highest rate of rape. According to the FBI report, in the year 1990, every day, 1,756 rapes took place. And according to the US Department of Justice, 2,713 women were being raped every day in the year 1996. That means every 32 seconds, one woman is being raped. I am asking the question that if you implement the Islamic Sharia, that every woman should be dressed in the Islamic hijab, that is, the complete body should be covered. The only parts that can be seen are the face and the hands up to the wrist. And after that, if any man rapes any woman, capital penalty, death penalty. I am asking the question that if you implement the Islamic Sharia in USA, will the rate of rape, will it increase? Will it remain the same? Or will it decrease? But natural, it will decrease. You implement the Sharia and you get results. Therefore, the least rate of rape in any country in the world, it's in Saudi Arabia. You implement the Sharia and you get results. The Western civilization, in the name of women's liberalization, they are claiming to uplift the woman. They have actually degraded her to a status of concubines, mistresses, society butterflies, which are mere tools in the hands of pleasure seekers and sex marketers, which are hidden behind the colorful screen of art and culture. In the name of art and culture, they are selling their daughters, they are selling their mothers. We love our daughters, we love our mothers. If hijab subjugates the woman, then we love this subjugation, we love this oppression. In the name of art and culture, they are selling their daughters, they are selling their mothers. We love our daughters, we love our mothers. And what are they doing? Going back to the Babylonian civilization, to the Roman civilization. In the name of art, culture, fashion TV, modeling, what are they doing? Going back to the old ways.
Oh, people of the world, can we spare a little justice?